everybody. Kirk Ray Smith, Church Express. We will give a few folks here to join us on Facebook Live. Thank you for all of those of you who have already dialed in through our dial-in. Also, welcome to all those who will be joining us via YouTube, along with Facebook Live. You can always find us on the YouTube channel, Kirk Smith Unlimited and Associates on YouTube. And please remember to follow us on Facebook at Kirk Smith Unlimited. Of course, yours truly, Kirk Ray Smith Senior. So again, as folks are revving up and getting ready to jump into the Church Express, so I figured, why not just kind of relax a little bit, grab a cup of coffee, got mine, tea, or whatever your preference or morning drink of preference is. And so we're just going to relax, man, and get into this word. I got a good one for everyone today. I don't know if you saw the pre-post that I put up prior to the Express throughout the week, announcing this message. We're going to talk about racism and bigotry, so I believe I have a cure. It's my theory. But before we get into that, I do want to share with you that there's three things that will always be true, that will never change. One is God himself. God will never change. Also, the fact that his word does bring stability in our lives. And then the last thing that's always true, or the third thing I would say that's always true, is that we as human beings will always be in need of something. It is absolutely impossible to be a human on earth and not need something. There will always be times in our lives we're going to need something. So whether it's some type of financial help, counseling, guidance, whatever it is, medical attention, whatever it is, emotional support, we're going to always be in need of something. That's just part of humanity. That's the human plight. And that will always be true, as long as we're in these finite bodies. And that's true. And so one area where I think we need help and we need to increase our level of understanding, and I don't think you can ever have too much wisdom, like even too much insight. I think it's important to have the ability to hear from other people and not be kind of a know-it-all. And I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys before. Maybe it's a few messages ago. It might even been prior to us going on Facebook Live, because for some of you who don't know, the Church Express has been going for like a year or more before we even went on Facebook Live. And some of you that's been on a dial-in for quite some time, you can attest to that. But the thing is that you have this back to what I was saying before, how we're always going to have these needs, and it's important that we're able to listen to other people. And you have like different types of learners. So anytime you get a teacher or instructor in front of you, you can kind of put the audience in sort of three different groups. And so you have naive listeners who just they think they can only learn one way. That they can only learn from one person or one source or one group. But really, that's not true. There's many ways to learn, and we should all sort of take a student's posture. The other type of people that's in that environment or that gathering are know-it-alls. So you can't tell them a thing because they have it all figured out. So it's just really a waste of time. I don't know if any of you know any know-it-alls, but they do exist. And the last group are teachable, people who are open, who will listen, who are again not necessarily with any expectation that you can ultimately change them, or they may not even have an appetite to change, but maybe they just want to increase their level of understanding. And so me as a Christian, then it's a mistake for me to say, well, I'll never listen to a Muslim, right? That's a mistake. Now, I have no interest in converting from Christianity to becoming a Muslim. That doesn't mean I can't have a conversation with a Muslim. Does that make sense? But that's a message for a different day. But I have this theory that I want to share with you guys around, the cure, what I think the cure might be for racism. Again, and my theory is based on, both empirical and anecdotal knowledge. So empirical or existential, that simply means that I've experienced it, I saw it, I've been around it. And then anecdotal is I may have researched it, studied it, heard some others speak on it, but nonetheless, I'm not saying that my theory is absolute by any stretch of the imagination, but I kind of got these four things I think will bring about real change in racism and bigotry, right? There's 4 ways for it to really, for change to happen. And really the 4th one is kind of impossible. So the first one is a spiritual awakening. So I think if we have spirit and a spiritual awakening, I think that could change a person's thoughts around how they see different races that they may think are inferior, or different groups or whatever, that they may think that they're better than, or whatever the case may be. The other thing is a major life event. You know, something happens and then all of a sudden you have this epiphany. You know, something happens and then you're a new person. And then the third is money. And money does not make a person not racist or a bigot, but it certainly starts the conversation. Again, we're going to go into that here in a second. And the last one I think is impossible, and that's a lobotomy, you know, like a brain transplant. You know, really, that's only, so again, 4 things I think, again, my theory, that will heal us or cure us of racism and bigotry is 1, a spiritual awakening, 2, a major life event, 3, money, you know, or the threat of it, not having it, and 4, a lobotomy, which is a brain transplant. So I guess we can just take number 4 out, because I just don't think that's possible. So let me talk a little bit about number 1 and how I think a spiritual awakening can change a racist or heal racism and bigotry. Is that when you begin to see people through God's eyes, right? And look at people the way God sees people. And if we allow ourselves to get in Christ, Him and us, and allow Him to show us how the world looks through His eyes, right? Like not how it looks through our eyes, but how the world looks through His eyes. If we allow ourselves, okay, God, what do people look like to you? Not what He looks like to me or the next person, but God, show me exactly what people look like through your eyes. And I guarantee you, races and cultures and all this other stuff will no longer become barriers or be barriers to us. But it'll actually become a celebration of people and differences. So now, you heard me talk a lot about having pride in yourself and loving yourself and believing in who you are. So humor me for a second. Now, I think, first of all, I know that I am an amazing, incredible, unbelievably dynamic black man. That's right, I said it. I think I am an amazing black man, and I'm very, very proud to be black. I'm excited about being black. In fact, I wake up every day anxious about what does God have for this black man today. I really am. I'm excited about being black. And, you know, so Kurt Ray Smith, that's who I am. I'm proud of that. My grandson and my soon-to-be granddaughter, for those you don't know, I want them to call me Big Papa. That's right, Kurt Ray Smith. You can call me Big Papa. If I was a white man, I would be an amazing white man. An incredible white man. I mean, the best white man to ever live. I'd be amazing at being a white man. You can call me Kurt Ray Wittenheimer, straight out of Germany. Right? And my grandkids, they have to call me Big Pappy. Kurt Ray Wittenheimer. That's right, he has a ring to it. I'll be an amazing black man. So I'll be proud of that. I'm an amazing white man, I'm sorry. I'll be proud of that if I was a white man. So what? Be proud of who you are and how God made you. Again, when you start looking at people through God's eyes, look at yourself in God's eyes, race, different colors and ethnic groups and cultures and all that stuff becomes a celebration, not a reason to put barriers between ourselves. Right? Listen, if I was Hispanic, I'd be an amazing Hispanic man. Man, you can call me Kurt Ray Ramirez. I'll be an amazing Hispanic. That's right. And my grandkids, they call me Big Papi, because I'll be great at that. The best grandfather, the greatest husband, the greatest father. Man, I'll be a legendary Hispanic man, Kurt Ray Ramirez. I'll be good at that. And if I were Asian, I would be an amazing Asian man. Let's say straight out of South Korea. I'll be an amazing Asian man. You can call me Kirk Ray U. And my grandkids will have to call me Big Odyssey. Whatever it is, I'll be great at it. Be proud of who you are and where you came from. Color, no color, yellow, white, whatever it is. Proud of it. There's nothing wrong with pride in who you are and what you look like. Be good at who you are. Maximize who you are. Use your race and your identity as an opportunity to help change the world, help impact people and make people's lives better. That's what you use your race for, not as something as a barrier to get in the way or create separation. See, this was what happens when you begin to see things through God's eyes. When you start looking at the world and looking at people the way God sees us, it changes everything. But we get so limited and so myopic and shut down, and we get this tunnel vision, and you can only see it one way. That's not from God. God makes no apologies for different races. If you don't believe me, look back in your Bibles. Read about the Tower of Babel. Google the Tower of Babel in the Bible and how God confused and confound the language to create diversity. That was one of the first real major moves around diversity of all in history, was changing up the language so we don't all speak the same way and say things, use the same words or the same verbiage. What I'm saying is celebrate who you are. So again, I'm a black man, right? Kirk Ray Smith. That's right. I'm a beast. I'm incredible. I'm amazing. When I look at myself, I'm proud of what I see. I didn't ask you what you thought. I said this is what I think. And you may feel differently. You may not think I'm amazing. That's okay. That's okay. All right. But my salvation or stability or peace isn't predicated on an opinion of another. All I want to know is, how does God see me? And if God tells me I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, well, that's the truth. I choose to believe God. Again, if I was a white man, Kirk Ray Wittenheimer, straight out of Germany, I would be incredible and amazing, proud of that, and maximize that, and use my whiteness to make this world a better place. And listen, and the reality is that certain people only listen to certain people. Certain people only listen to people that look like them. That is a reality, right? And that probably won't change. That's okay. If I was a white man, I would address white people who won't listen to anybody but a white man. And I'll bring insight and knowledge to them, and hopefully they'll change and their lives will become better. Same thing with black people. That they only want to listen to a black person. Okay, I'll do that. Again, if I was Hispanic, Kirk Ray Ramirez, same thing. I'll be in the Hispanic community. I'll be around Cubans. I'll be around Puerto Ricans. I'll be around Mexicans, and so on and so on. That's exactly what I'll do. Colombians, whatever it is, I'll be that. I can be that. If I was Asian, same thing. I'd go into South Korea, be around Koreans and Japanese, men and women and children, and with China, Chinese, whatever it is, I'm gonna be that. India, whatever it takes, I'm gonna be that. Be proud of that, folks. Celebrate it. And pride in self, pride in what you look like, or in terms of your culture, your ethnicity, does not mean you have to hate another race. So I think, again, a spiritual awakening, I think that will cure racism and bigotry. The next thing is a major life event. So unless you have significant interaction with other races of people, right, it's difficult to understand them, to love them. Christian or not, it's hard. You can be the strongest Christian, have the biggest church, the most prosperous ministry, whatever it is. That doesn't mean anything. Until you learn how and be around other people from different cultures, then your appreciation for that culture is going to be hard to obtain. And I can tell you, for me, as a black kid growing up, okay, straight out of Cincinnati, Ohio, specifically Avondale, a.k.a. A1, some of y'all know. That's where I'm from, Gauss Road. You know what I mean? Right off of Glenwood. You know, a few blocks from the former Burton Elementary. That's right. That's where I used to hang. Up on the road, Redden Road, South Avondale, sometimes North Avondale, Blair, all of that. Y'all know what time it is. Straight out of that. But my mentality coming up is that, and this is the truth, I got hit by a car. I was like 9 or something like that. I got hit by a car knocked me up on the side of the road. And so the sweet white lady got out the car, older white lady, and she said, "Oh my God, I'm sorry." She was crying. And she said, "Well, I'm going to go to the phone booth." Now, for some of y'all that don't know, a phone booth is like this thing. It has like glass all around it. It's usually like trimmed in blue or blue around the bottom, and then inside of it they got this phone, right? And this big phone, silver and black phone, you can put coins in it, right? I think you can use nickels, dimes, and quarters, that's right, to put in there and make phone calls, and phone calls are usually a quarter. And if you were really big time, if you had a big time phone booth, they had a yellow book. Now, a yellow book is this really thick book with all these numbers, right? It's the original Google. And it had this long accordion thing hanging from the phone, and you can just, find these numbers. But anyway, I digress. So she said she's going to the phone booth. So I told my friends, I said, pick me up and carry me home down Lexington Avenue. Some of y'all know where that is. I was at the corner of Lexington and Redden Road, Southern Baptist Church, right there on the corner. I mean, I wasn't at church because, I wasn't really in the church at that time. But anyway, so they picked me up and they carried me home. And the reason I wanted to go home with this swollen knee over going to the hospital, because I thought if they picked up a black person, this is the truth now, if they picked up a black person in an ambulance, and if you went to the hospital hurt, they would put you to sleep. I thought they would euthanize you. Of course, at 9, 10, whatever, I know what euthanize meant, but you get my drift. I thought if they took a black person to the hospital, that if you were hurt, too badly hurt, they would just put you down like they would do a dog or something. That's what I really thought. That was my mentality, because I thought the world began and ended in my neighborhood. Well, lo and behold, I go to the military, and it was a culture shock. Changed me forever. And I saw people of different colors and races suffering, like me, struggling through boot camp, nervous, young guys. And I said, wow, man, this is what it's about. Side by side with people from different parts of the world, different parts of the country, different communities, different socioeconomic levels, whatever it was. And that changed me forever. And I got an appreciation. But along the way, I also got a greater appreciation for who I was, because I found value in my blackness. That it's okay being a black man. Man, I like being black. I have no desire to be any other race but the one that I am. And the main reason is because there's a reason why God made me this way. So it's my opportunity. My life is an opportunity, man, not a burden. Yeah, it's difficult dealing with racism and all these things, but I don't look at it as a burden. I look at it as an opportunity. So without any kind of major interaction or significant interaction with other races, it's difficult to get an appreciation. So you have to be deliberate and intentional about becoming more culturally aware of people other than just the ones that look like you. And even within the black culture, the black race, there's different cultures. We're not all the same. I always question the black community. And what exactly is the black community? Because I'm confused. Is there a white community? Is there a Hispanic community? I mean, what is there, right? I understand, again, anecdotally, that there is some dichotomy between, let's say, Cubans and Puerto Ricans, right? There's some differences there. All right, so are they all the same? No. There's some dichotomy between Cubans, Puerto Ricans, and Mexicans. Okay, well, are they all the same? No. Right? But what we like to do is put people in groups. Well, I don't consider myself the same as every last black person on earth in some big, large black community. Right? So what I'm saying is that we got to break away from that stuff and be willing to take risks to learn other people in other ways. But also, sometimes it takes trauma. Sometimes people will never turn around, folks. Whether it's to be healed from racism and bigotry or any other thing, any kind of addiction or whatever it is. Some people never learn until something bad happens to them. And sometimes, unfortunately, more bad things need to happen for them to get it across their head. That's how we are. As humans, a lot of times, and y'all know it, some of y'all can identify, we learn things the hard way. We have a difficulty just sitting in front of someone and listening, writing down, taking note of that wisdom, and then living by it. We usually have to learn through some type of trauma. So I think, again, one of the ways to cure, again, and not that I'm promoting or asking for it, but to cure racism and bigotry, something bad got to happen. I mean, I've read story after story where it was a person of a different race. I know this story about this white guy who was in the military. He was racist, right? He was an admitted racist, so he was an out racist. But then a black guy saved his life and it changed him. So what I'm saying is that sometimes, folks, it takes trauma for us to change. And we're not going to listen until something really, really bad happens. And that's sad, but it's the reality. And y'all know I'm not making it up. This isn't some knowledge exclusive to me. Y'all understand what I'm saying? That a lot of times we won't change until we get hit hard. And then when we get hard change, so whether it's a prison sentence or some kind of rehab clinic, or we lose all of our money, our loved ones, or whatever it is, loss, our income, whatever the case may be, then we change. when something bad happens, some type of trauma, either to us or someone that we love, then we say, wait a minute, I got to make some changes, right? That's how it happens. Because I don't really care how racist you are. If you're dying, in most cases, you ain't thinking about race. You're thinking about survival. And how can you be helped? Who can help you in that situation? At least most of us think that way, right? So I think, again, so that a major life event could be the cure. And the other one is money. And the only time people are going to, in many cases, are going to change and get away from this racist type of lifestyle. The only time they're going to get away from living the way that they're living, the only time this is going to happen is when you start impacting their pockets. Now, again, as I mentioned before, I don't necessarily think money in and of itself can make a person no longer racist or a bigot or prejudiced, but it can certainly start the conversation. Now, for those of you who are in the history and are really like learning about the civil rights movement, which is way larger than Martin Luther King. The civil rights movement was large. It wasn't one individual. So many people involved with the civil rights movement. So many. And it wasn't just all black people. It was a whole lot of white people and brown people involved in the civil rights movement. So when you start reading the history, you can learn. But let's talk about something that's very popular, right? The bus boycott, right? Everybody knows about that. Okay. And not to get into the whole history behind that, but what do you think brought about change? How do you think those people of color were able to sit anywhere they wanted to sit on the bus? Right? So we know about the protests, right? So not riding the bus, walk to work, do whatever. And it started impacting jobs and people's livelihoods. Drivers were being fired, laid off because they couldn't pay them. And these companies that were making money from it, they were losing money. Whether it was black patronage or whatever it was, that had a huge impact on the economy. And so they said, okay, wait a minute, we need to change it. So at the center of changing that whole racist view was finances, folks. And people usually, when they recognize that racism is no longer economically feasible and it does not make good financial sense, then they say, wait a minute, we need to take another look at this because it's money, unfortunately. And money has a way of waking people up when they feel that their finances are threatened and it's too expensive to be racist or a bigot, then they're going to change their ways, right? And that's what happens because money doesn't have color per se, right? Money is green, so it doesn't matter who spends it. Then as long as you spend it, it's money. Money, you can't tell, you can't look at a dollar bill or a $5 bill or a $10 bill or a $20 bill and tell if it came from a white or black person, right? So it's money. Money is money. Money transcends race. And that's so, again, a lot of folks won't change until their pockets are impacted. Until you start taking money away from people, they won't listen. So back to my earlier point, a lot of times, folks, we won't change. We refuse to change. We are obstinate and determined and stubborn until something happens for us to snap out of it. You know, you ever been around a person that was inebriated? You know, or heard of people who, when they get inebriated and say some person, if they're driving drunk or buzzing or whatever they're doing, and then they get pulled over by the cops and they snap out of it and, yes, officer. You know, like all of a sudden they become sober in their facial expression and they become awake all of a sudden, right? Because they're afraid. And see, that's what fear does. See, fear wakes you up. Like when you're scared of something, you just wake up. You just, you know, all of a sudden start speaking properly and trying to be professional because you're afraid of what might happen. You know, like you get these hardened criminals doing all kind of dirt, committing all kind of crimes, and then they go to court dressed up. So as if because you have on a suit now and a nice haircut, that's going to make the jury and the judge or whomever look at you, or the prosecutor look at you differently. You did what you did. But a lot of times what we do is that when we get afraid, we tighten up. You know, you straighten your back out and get all professional all of a sudden when you're afraid. And see, a lot of times, folks, we won't change until we get really scared. And we, man, you know how, or you hear something you didn't, diagnosis that scared you from the doctor. And then all of a sudden you got to change and you got to know low carbs and you got to go to the gym. You know, I mean, that's what we do. See, again, what's true about humans, we're always going to be in need of something. As human beings, there's always going to be something wrong with us. Like, there is no such thing as a perfect person, perfect everything, perfect all the time. That don't even make sense for a human. We're always going to be in need of something. Like we were not put on this earth to be independent. You're always going to need something or some kind of help in some kind of way. And so with this whole racism issue, we need help, folks. We need help. So gotta stop fighting over it or trying to prove this and prove that. Be proud of who you are, proud of what you look like, proud of where you came from. Stand on that and allow God to maximize whatever it is He created you to be. So whatever you are, be that. And the fourth thing was a brain transplant. Well, that's impossible. I mean, that I know of. So really, even to parallel it, even when it comes to just change in general, for people's attitudes to change, these four are true. Spiritual awakening, major life event, finances, or lobotomy. And see, that's just the reality, folks. So the video I put out earlier, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, or something like that, a couple times yesterday. And one of the persons said on the video, and I sort of did these quick little 1 minute, 30-second interviews or what have you. And he talked about how racism is taught. And it's something that you learn over time. And it's true. You can evolve in being a racist. Now, I personally still believe, and some of you know my stance, I don't think most of America is racist. I don't believe that, not for a second. I do believe there are racist people, and I think there's racist people everywhere of all types. And beyond just racists, even bigots and people and prejudiced people. We all have our own set of prejudices, right or wrong, right? We're all prejudiced in some kind of way. We're all judgmental. That's how it works. You know, that's just the reality. But I also think we can be healed, that we can be changed, we can be made better, and there is a real cure for this stuff. And I think it, again, starts with a spiritual awakening. And us being willing to allow God to show us what people look like through His eyes. And if we can just look at what people look like through His eyes and look at the world the way He sees people, it's a game changer. So now my race is not a barrier, but it's a celebration, it's an opportunity. I have no issues with being black. I am incredibly proud of black, my dark skin and all of that, man. Listen, when I look in the mirror, man, I'm happy at what I see. And that has nothing to do with anybody else, man. That's all God. When I see a white person, I'm excited about who they are. And man, if I was a white person, I'd be amazing. I'd be an incredible white man. I will be, man, listen, Kurt Wittenheimer, straight out of Germany, will be the top. I'll be looked at least one of the top 5 white men in America. That's how I'll see myself and be proud of that. And use my whiteness to make the world better. And maybe I can get in places that others can't. And I'll get into those places. Like the Bible says, I'll be wise as a serpent, but as harmless as a dove. I'll figure out ways to use my whiteness to make this world better. That's how it works. If I was Hispanic, I'd use my Hispanic, my Latin flavor. You know what I mean? My accent. You know what I mean? The way I roll my words, my R's and different letters. You know what I'm saying? I'll be smooth with it, man. That's right. And I'll maximize it. No doubt. Same thing if I was Asian, South Korean, whatever. I'm going to use it. I'm going to maximize it. And what's wrong with that? So because somebody is proud of who they are, that doesn't make them a hater or a hater of another group or another race or ethnic group. Be proud of who you are. You know, do everything in your power. Don't wait on a tragedy. Don't wait on major trauma for you to change, man. Don't wait for something bad to happen to you. Change now while you can. Get around people, other people that don't look like you. If you black, man, hang out with some white people, some Hispanic people, some Asian people. Go where they are. You'll be amazed. But we let the media and everything else tell us what the world is, and then we make all our decisions based on their opinions. So you can sit there and watch Fox News or whatever channel, and then you say, man, listen, watching Fox, I think every white person is a racist. Well, that's not true. Somebody watching CNN can say, well, everybody in the world is liberal and everybody's against